Well, I see with Rotary's involvement that this thing is going to expand throughout Genesee County. I have no doubt about that. And past that, I'd like to see Rotary take this to the national scale.
We're talking with Bob Krug and Tony Brown, who started the debate program at the Lake Fenton Schools. When did you start this debate program?
It was around 2004.
And why did you start it?
It's a funny story. My son and I got into an argument, and he was completely irrational. I mean, to the point where he wasn't providing any input, any insight. It was just a matter of yes, no, without any substantial information to support his point. So after a couple of hours of this and listening to him rant and rave in pure emotion, I decided that we're going to do something different to actually train him on how to debate appropriately and effectively. So I went to the principal at Lake Fenton School at the time and asked him if we could start a debate club, and he said yes. I corralled Mr. Krug here, Mr. Ellis, and my wife Sonia to help out, and we got this thing up and running.
Are you pleased with how the program has gone so far?
Extremely.
How do you see it growing in the future?
Well, I see with Rotary's involvement that this thing is going to expand throughout Genesee County. I have no doubt about that. And past that, I'd like to see Rotary take this to the national scale.
How old are the participants?
Well, the participants, ironically, this year, we've had them as young as third graders. This year, being 2011, we have a fourth grader, so it's really fourth grade through eighth grade, all from local schools being Genesee County.
How many schools participate in the program?
Right now, I think we have 4 or 5, and we've had as many as 7 or 8 at a time.
Is it true that you had Harbor Springs participate at one point?
Well, that's another funny thing. When we first started, it was awful hard to convince the kids to keep debating each other. And it just reinforced our need for debate when we found out there was only one other middle school debate club in the whole state, and that was at Harbor Springs. They came down, spent the weekend with us, and we conducted basically our first tournament. And with the encouragement of judges that were there and other folks, it has expanded. And as was said earlier, I think with Rotary, we'll have the appropriate judges, coaches, we should be able to expand this.
I'm sure everyone involved has their favorite stories to tell about the debate experience. What's yours?
I think the favorite one I have are, well, 2, and I don't want to steal Tony's thunder, but the best one we had, we look at it that any and all children are available. The funniest one was when a young kid who was, let's just say, a challenge to coach, come all excited one night, and he said, Mr. Krug, do you realize that if you road map an English paper, you can get a B? I looked down, gave him a hug, and said, do you realize if you road map a little better, you can get an A? And he was really shocked that he had learned something. And the one that has struck us, at least me, that I remember is one of the first couple of years, we had a young child who came over from Russia in August, and he come into debate in September and had not taken on the other language. And we were able, through Tony and everybody's effort, to get a translator that would tell him in Russian what we were saying in English, and to watch him blossom. That
Wonderful.
was just
Wonderful.
an aspect we didn't, at least I didn't expect.
What's your story, Tony?
You know, there's so many, and I've been so proud to coach all these kids. I will, I'll talk about my kids more specifically. My daughter, she started debating when she was in 3rd grade. Her actual first debate, you mentioned Harbor Springs, was against Harbor Springs. She came up, we had a kid that dropped out at the last minute. She'd never practiced once in her life, but she'd sat through all the practices and she knew what to do. So she got up to the podium, we set her up for the debate. Her opponent was an 8th grader. And it was kind of comical because she baited him like the teaching kids how to bait their opponents in their constructive arguments, and the kid bit. And then she took that argument and beat him over the head with it for the next 7 minutes. So the judges were to the point where they were laughing because it was so comical that this little 3rd grader was hammering on this kid that was in 8th grade about this one point they gave her the match, she won. You know, and I look at my son, the things that he's been able to accomplish. I mean, he graduated valedictorian last year. You know, he was a kid that used to get bullied back in middle school because, you know, he didn't really fit in all the time, but once he learned that self-confidence and those values that debate present or give kids, he's gone a long ways. He's now at the University of Michigan.
You know, you talked about self-confidence. I understand one of your participants in the program is at West Point and on the debate team at West Point.
Yes.
That's gotta make you
West
proud.
Point cadet, yeah.
What you
We got a
accomplished.
kid at Yale. So these kids aren't kids that are just, you know, not gonna go someplace. These are kids that have drive and focus or will develop drive and focus to wanna go to the next level.
Great, great. Anything else?
Well, just keep in mind that we're not making debaters, we're trying to teach these young men and women a skill that they'll use all their life, be in their careers, their family, or just social network.
When did the Fenton Rotary start participating in the program?
Well, fortunately, we started participating this year, which is 2011. And to our chagrin, we were asked to get involved a few years ago, and we didn't. So we figured it was time now. The people that had started the club had done the debate club had done a very good job, and we felt that the Rotary Club members in our community should be involved, and that we have the financial resources to help the club along and to reward children for putting forth great effort.
How do you see Rotary participating in the future?
I think that where we see Rotary participating, I think we want our members to be very active and be judges and coaches of these teams. And we hope to get the Flynn area Rotary clubs, which there's about 4 or 5 of them, including Burton and Grand Blanc, to also go out and find one school that they could sponsor, and therefore maybe double the size of our organization right away to have 8 or 9 schools in it by next year.